Alrighty, I've obviously made some progress here, and I did videotape some of what I've done here, which is basically to install the back gear inside the belts the way they should be. But the video I took of installing that was with that really crummy little Technique camera that I thought I was going to give one more try. I figured, you know what, it's I remember the video being good and it not having good audio inside the case, and I said, well, I'll just take it outside the case and it'll be great. No, wrong. The audio is horrible. What I'll do is I'll pause right here and I will go back, and since there's no good audio, I'm going to do a quick zip through whatever good footage I can find off of that cheap camera, just showing getting the back gear in. And then I'll come back and we'll talk about what we're going to do to get the spindle in. Alrighty, we are back. So now, see, I've got this piece of threaded rod sitting here. I determined it was long enough. This was one of my little scrapyard finds. I think it's 5/8. And I'm just going to take some flat bar, cut the appropriate holes through, and use that to press this bearing in. The spindle came out this way. So this bearing has to be in here. I push the spindle in. Well, I pressed this bearing onto the spindle. Let me go get it and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, I'm back. So these are the old bearings. The smaller one goes in here. And the larger one is actually pressed up on the spindle here. I pressed it off, and now when I get the new bearing I will press it on. Meantime, while I'm waiting for that, I can go ahead. I do have the good replacement for this one, and I'll go ahead and get it located in here, and that'll be something to do. After that, I just have to wait for the other bearing to get here. Alright, I should mention that on my lathe, before the bearing went in, there were 4 of these washers that they're not flat. They've got a concavity to them, and the cup opens inward. That's how they sat in there. I'm going to oil them up real well. I say that because there was some surface rust on them when I took them apart. I'm trying to get them liberally coated all throughout the sandwich layers. And same with this guy. Alright. You just sit right there for a second. I don't want to get this thing started cockeyed. Alright. You should have pretty even pressure right there. And I need to get a crescent wrench, at least one. Almost feels like I could do this by a finger. There it goes, finger tight. Alright, exciting moment. I finally got in the mail the replacement bearing that it's shielded like the original. Looks like it's the right bearing. So I'm ready to put this back together. While waiting for this, I went ahead and did some, reassembly of everything I could. I had already started painting previously. Yeah. The next worry I have is, because this sits here so loosely, is that after I press the new bearing onto the shaft here, and I go to push it in and drive this onto that, it's going to be hard. This is going to want to walk off, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was just the paint. While I was waiting for that bearing to come, I did some painting and reassembly, and if you watch that one that the series that I did on that Atlas 618, I was a lot more meticulous. I stripped everything completely. I spray painted everything, and it took a long time. And I said somewhere in the middle of it, I said, I don't think I'm going to do this ever again. So next time I'm just going to brush paint. And so that's what I did this time. I brush painted, and I'm very happy with that. And I think that's what I'm going to do from now on. There's a couple spots, like there's a mist spot I saw earlier. Here's one. Okay, here's a drip. All that stuff could easily be touched up with the brush painting. And I'm not even worrying about the interior. I'm just, I guess I'm coming a little bit closer to Mr. Pete's point of view, the tool canes. He never repaints anymore. He said he doesn't have time for that. He's 75 years old. Screw it. I'm 50 years old, and I like my machines to look nice, but I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to spend all my time, meticulously, restoring them. I just want them to look nice, but there is a good enough, and I think this is good enough. This is brushed on. I like it. So your opinion is, you'll do what you want with your machines. This is what I'm going to do from now on. I like it. All right. So next thing I'm going to do is my new bearing, get it pressed on, take it over to the Harbor Freight thing. Maybe I'll get some footage over there. We'll see. Yep, looks to be going. All right, good. That's it. Alright, I can tell you right now, this is going to be a bit of an adventure getting this in here and all the bowl gear and everything else. So I'm going to bring you back when I'm down to the point where I'm ready to get the tricky press bit done. I won't show all the other fumbling around. I got it all sort of in place, and I'm in the last part of just tapping it in and getting this bearing here to go in. I've got my cotter pin up there all lined up. I went ahead and slightly tightened this just to keep it in place because it was getting jammed up in here. This is my stop collar that adjusts, you know, how tightly we want the whole mechanism here. So yeah, everything's getting really close. It's just a matter of tapping it all home. So I wonder, just so I don't lose everything here, maybe I'll put the screws in this side, even though it's not all the way in yet, just to hold it in place. And then I can work on sort of tapping this back into place. Suppose one could use these screws to finish seating the bearing. In fact, it seems like it's doing that already. I'm not putting any pressure on these screws at all. And it seems like they've sort of walked that bearing into where it belongs. Wow. That's interesting. Alright, now, see if I can get this bearing back where it belongs. Alright, so I think that even though this pulled up flush, I think that this bearing must have further that it can go in, because I'm not getting very many threads down on this end. So we'll pull this apart again. See what we got going on. Oh yeah. There's plenty of room for this to go further. So I can't see the spindle going in further because this is the registration for your chucks right here. I think that's as far as it goes in. Sure feels nice. Right, so this is where they go. I'm going to clean this off. It's got some oil that's stripped down from stuff I've done. Might as well start off with a clean pulley, and then I'll come back. There you go. Sorry there wasn't much room to get the camera up in there while working on it, but I did manage to get the two belts on, and there's a tensioning bolt up there. Captures from the bottom and the top. So what I did was you have this spring here so that when you have the motor engaged with the tension on the belt, it also has this tension from the spring pulling down on the tensioner for the idler that goes up to the spindle. So that's pretty good tension right there. So I just loosened this one and allowed the spring to pull the pulley down. Then that left the one on top, which is very difficult to get a wrench on, hand tight, loose actually. So I just, moved that on back down into place, then tightened from this side, and now it's captured. It seemed like the best idea to me. I couldn't tell you whether that's proper. It honestly feels to me like one of these is looser than the other, which kind of bugs me. I don't know if there's any way to change the angle, but it is what it is. And it's ready to fire up. Just about. I got one more bracket to put on. Alright, here goes the moment of truth. Not too shabby. I ran the end mill and the collet. I figured that's about as accurate a thing as I've got in my shop. Looks pretty good.